Good Friday afternoon. It's Del Shores.
And I'm Emerson Collins, and you're watching The Del and Emerson Show.
Straight talk.
Real gay. Well, it's Friday. That's the day
Friday.
that it is.
It's Friday. Emerson, I was thinking this week, do we need theme music? Do we need to reach out to our musician friends and have them write the Del and Emerson Show or something?
That seems like a lot. Like if we figured out how to make it and put it up as a podcast again, maybe. But, we do enough.
Well, I swear I did a show the other day and they had theme music and I thought, oh, we're underperforming. We don't have theme music.
I'm not worried.
I'm competitive.
No, I am not. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Wherever you're watching, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Periscope, on Twitter, we are glad to have you here with us this afternoon. Please feel free to share the broadcast. If you have comments or questions, write them. We'll see them. We find them interesting, or we get bored, we'll answer them.
Yeah, if they're really inappropriate, we will really consider them.
Yep. So when today is a holiday, not a federally recognized holiday yet, but it is Juneteenth today.
Yes, something that that our president, he was educated about this. He did not know what Juneteenth was because he scheduled a rally tonight in Tulsa that he ultimately canceled so that everybody can come tomorrow and spread coronavirus to each other.
It was interesting to me, though, that he blinked. I mean, I feel like it's the first time I can remember at any point in this that he did. I don't know who told him, for you to hold a rally on Juneteenth in Tulsa, where 99 years ago, the Black Wall Street massacre happened, is so bad that you do have to move it, and he listened. I don't know what they told him to get him to do it, but I was genuinely shocked.
Is that woman that quit? What's her name?
Omarosa?
No. Oh God, I'm sorry. It's been a long week in my mind. I do have Red Bull. I will perk up by the end. I drove to Burbank to get pear Red Bull, Emerson. It's very hard to find.
But related to Trump not knowing, but I guarantee you Stephen Miller and others in that administration did know and liked that it was offensively, that it would poke at people. I think they were honestly, and I think they still are, hoping that protesters will behave in a way that they can paint to their base as negative. But there's also been a lot of conversation around how many people don't know or didn't know what Juneteenth was or is.
I went to Wikipedia today, I will have to admit, and I really got much more of the history. So I think that that's a good thing. We were talking a little bit before the show. I don't remember it being taught in our Texas history. And it's
interesting because I did know, because I grew up in Houston, and of course it happened in Galveston. For those who aren't aware, Juneteenth is the day that the Union General Granger, I believe his name was, arrived in Galveston to let essentially slaves know that they had been freed in the Emancipation Proclamation 2.5 years earlier. The Civil War had ended 2 months earlier. And so
2 years earlier, right?
Yeah, yes, but the war had ended 2 months ago. The proclamation had been 2.5 years ago.
Oh, right. Okay, sorry.
But because there wasn't a lot of union representation in Texas, it was not being applied there. So it has certainly been done in Houston and in Galveston, and there have been celebrations in various places, and I think 47 states acknowledge it, but it's not a federal holiday. But I don't know that I learned about it in school. It may honestly have been like in Boy Scouts and trips to Galveston or something.
Yeah, it was interesting because I grew up in a very Hispanic culture. As you know, I grew up in Zapata, Texas, most of my childhood. Early childhood was Winners, where Sorted Lives is set, but then we moved to Zapata. And the interesting thing is I was a minority there in a very Hispanic community, but there were no African Americans in Zapata until I was in 8th grade. And then Coach Oliver, he was the basketball coach. He moved to Zapata. He was there only a couple of years, but he was my favorite history teacher. And I don't remember. I mean, he taught Texas history, and I do not remember that part being part of our curriculum.
Well, and it's also, that speaks to the larger Black Lives Matter conversation that's happening, that education separate from dealing with bigotry and systemic racism, education has a lot to do with how you perceive the world you grow up in, the world and how it was literally made. If Black artists aren't celebrated the same way white artists are, if you don't learn about things, the civil rights legislation, when 20th century education seems to be a failing for a lot of people. Like the amount of time that's spent on the Revolutionary War, I feel like everyone in the world knows who Paul Revere is.
Right.
But like Bayard Rustin, who was one of Martin Luther King's right-hand men, not as likely to be and how you perceive the world was built is impacted by what you are or aren't taught. There are big fights that happen over textbooks, and that Texas curriculum dictates textbooks for a lot of the country because they order the most textbooks. So what you learn in other places can be dictated by what Texas says it wants to teach its students, because the school book companies want to only make one kind of textbook. And so whoever's going to place the biggest order, lots of things contribute to us being unaware, particularly of history of marginalized people. And I feel like a lot of people learning about Juneteenth this week is sort of representative of that. And also, it wasn't like just the Emancipation Day, because it wasn't really until the 13th Amendment in December of '65 that it was definitively applied to all of the states at that time. But that is the history. And it's great that lots of people that we're learning now, but I feel like it demonstrates where, when we talk about white people engaging with Black issues, literally our lack of knowledge is a stumbling block to conversations.
And I, like you said, I love that there's something kind of wonderful that the ignorance of this person that is president has educated many people, because because of his ignorance and bringing attention and focus to that, and also because of the Black Lives Matter movement that's happening right now.
And sort of related, within our continuing our Pride and Protests month, it's interesting to me too that we have seen the coverage of protests sort of fall out of the media, even though they're still happening. It's like, I know there's multiple actions in LA every day and have been since they started. And it's what it says to me is the media is definitely drawn to like violent imagery, to big pictures, and that makes it newsworthy because there's great footage to run. And then people talk about don't be destructive or don't loot or don't do those things, but it's falling out of the conversation a little bit, even though there's protests still happening. So it becomes what do you have to do to keep that at the forefront of this, to make sure this conversation goes beyond just George Floyd and this incident?
And at least, I mean, yes, we have been hearing about Atlanta, but what I find about the news is that during the protest, the coronavirus just went away for a little bit. It was like, wait, how many died today? It used to be every day we'd get those charts, and then now the charts are back, and it was suddenly up to 117,000 deaths. And you know what I'm saying, Emerson? That it's almost like there's not a balance. It's not like let's include this, let's include this. It's just like, Trump election. This is it. Just feels very one focused, if that makes sense.
It is a reminder that no matter where you get your news media from, what the media focuses on dictates the national conversation, and news producers do guide a lot of where our focus is and goes by, is this story the whole hour, or is that the A block and then it still gets mentioned in the D block, of the show, and that we be mindful of continuing to educate ourselves from multiple sources and outlets to be the most informed.
Like if you just come here for your news, it's mostly about a lot of gay stuff.
Yeah.
So,
but we are not pretending to be a full coverage institution.
That is correct. And we have a wonderful show for you today, because we have one of my very good friends on the show, and I'm so excited that she was able to join us today. Miss Calpernia Adams is going to be in the house later on, and she's going to share a hidden talent that I know about, that Emerson knows about. And if you don't know who Calpernia is, she's just, besides being a beautiful human being, she's a trans activist. Her story was told in Soldier's Soldier Girl on Showtime, and she has been an important voice for the trans community for many, many years. And so we are honored and thrilled that she is on the show today.
Yes.
And she's rather stunning. I love those. I love that picture that was on our poster. It was, yes. So we'll talk.
All right. Well, in the news, another maybe surprising great news out of the Supreme Court. In a 5-4 decision, the Supreme Court ruled that the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, known as DACA, a group that includes tens of thousands of LGBTQ people, is indeed constitutional. It protects undocumented individuals brought to the U.S. as children from deportation. And of course, they are known colloquially as dreamers. Trump and his attorneys general have claimed that it's against the law. Chief Justice John Roberts was joined by the 4 liberal judges, and Roberts wrote that the Trump administration did not follow the law in its dismantling of the program and took no heed in how it would affect its 800,000 recipients. In lieu of DACA, Trump had taken no substantive action toward getting Congress to pass immigration reform. Now, obviously, Trump was furious. It's not been a good week for him at SCOTUS in the last couple of weeks. So followed the banning of employment discrimination for our people, upholding state-level gun control, and allowing California to keep its status as a sanctuary state for undocumented immigrants. He tweeted, "These horrible and politically charged decisions coming out of the Supreme Court are shotgun blasts into the face of people that are proud to call themselves Republicans or conservatives. We need more justices or we will lose our Second Amendment and everything else. Vote Trump 2020. He also tried to use it to call for new justices. But all in all, a big win for Dreamers and DACA recipients that are many Latino people, but there's other people that qualify under that. And a really important aspect of that is, I think, people that aren't in the program and don't work in undocumented communities, they had to register to become Dreamers, to be beneficiaries of DACA. So there's a government registry of all of them. So when Trump attempted to dismantle this, all of those people could be found. It's one of the great dangers and fears of undocumented people in our country, is a registry that they could show up at people's addresses and send them back where they came from, as white ladies like to scream at 7-Elevens at people. So this is an exciting win, but also a reminder that we really need legislation to really deal with these issues and to give status to the people from these communities.
Yeah, I love that he also tweeted that the Supreme Court just doesn't like him. It's just all about, not about checks and balances, nothing. They just don't like him. That's why they did this. It was just a personal thing.
Well, and when Roberts, who is a conservative, is saying you did this so badly, I can't even support it. You're just terrible, even at being a bigot.
But not Thomas.
Oh no, never.
All right. In other news, we've got some log cabin Republican news. Gregory T. Angelo, the former head of the log cabin Republicans from 2013 to 2018, is now working in the Trump White House as spokesman for the White House Office of Drug Control Policy. The log cabin Republicans did not endorse Trump in 2016, with Angelo saying there was too much uncertainty about what he would do in office. No shit. But just the same, the organization urged its supporters to defeat Trump's Democratic opponent, Hillary Clinton. So it was a little bit we don't endorse Trump, but vote for him kind of thing. The group also called the 2016 Republican platform the most anti-LGBT in the party's history, yet the party has now adopted the same platform for 2020. Can you spell hypocrisy, log cabin Republicans? But since Trump became president, log cabin has defended him and his administration and has endorsed him for re-election, prompting its executive director, Jerry Ann Henry, to resign. Angelo has also voiced opposition to the Equality Act, calling it a threat to religious freedom. Trump opposes the bill too. Oh, go fuck yourselves, log cabin Republicans. It's so ridiculous.
It's just so exhausting and absurd. You know, I have before defended the right of LGBTQ people to have conservative beliefs. But if you can't be a conservative and say that this man is a moron, like, I don't care who you are, it just makes you stupid.
Yeah, and to say one thing 4 years ago and then another thing now, it's just it's irritating is what it is.
Yeah. All right. Well, this next story, you know, I feel like it's important to continue to tell these stories and say these particularly women's names. Before I do it, you know, trans women continue to be murdered for existing in the world. It's actually a brand new documentary out on Netflix that was released last night called Disclosure. I started to watch and then realized it was too late, and I'll get back to it. A lot about the journey of trans people in media. But Selena Reyes Hernandez, a trans woman in Chicago, was murdered on May 31st by Orlando Perez. They met early in the morning after she had attended a birthday party and visited a friend. Security cameras show the pair arriving at her apartment and then him leaving 20 minutes later, returning an hour later wearing a mask and carrying a handgun. In a statement recorded by police detectives, Perez said he asked Reyes Hernandez if she was female. When she replied that she was trans, he left. But because he was, quote, mad as hell, prosecutors said, he returned and shot her in the head and back, and she died of those wounds. And he was arrested last Sunday and was in court on Tuesday for a bond hearing, and the judge refused to free him on bail. One of at least 15 trans Americans known to have died by violence in 2020, most of them women of color. And as we talk about Black trans lives right now, and trans women, you know, there's so much danger for trans women in being visible and in also just existing in the world. And it's important that we pay attention to those stories. And this relates to the story we talked about on Tuesday in Colorado, passing legislation to say that panic is not a defense. This case is a perfect example of that. His attorneys would try to use, oh, I was panicked by her identity, and that led me to commit this horrific crime. So all of these issues tie together in instances like this.
Oof. All right. It sounds like, Emerson, you just gave me all the gay Republican news, but this is a interesting.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have had words with them on the line.
I have had words with them. I still, to this day, I've challenged them to a public debate, and nobody will debate me. I said, I'll give all my money to a worthy charity, and y'all can keep yours, like good, selfish, money-grubbing Republicans do. So anyway, this is about over a mask meltdown. Brandon Straka is a self-described gay former liberal and creator of the walkaway movement. Now, I looked up the walkaway movement, and they say, we are walking away from a party driven by hate. We are walking towards patriotism and a new unified America. Okay, just let that sink in, y'all. Anyway, he was thrown off, Brandon was thrown off of a recent American Airlines flight for refusing to wear a face mask. He was on a flight from New York to Dallas on his way to Tulsa for the Trump rally. Seemingly not aware of the airline's updated mask policy, he objected when asked to put on the mask, and he tweeted the dialogue. Emerson, would you like to play him?
I'm not looking at it, no.
No, you refuse.
You can't throw it.
The flight attendant says, excuse me, sir. I'll just do both words. I can do both roles. Flight attendant, excuse me, sir. Do you have a condition that prevents you from wearing a mask? Me, yes. Flight attendant, may I ask you what that is? Me, sanity. But New York Times reporter Astead Wesley was on the flight and shared a video of Straka's encounter with the flight attendant. Wesley tweeted, there is currently a mutiny on my flight to Tulsa via Dallas because a guy is refusing to wear a mask and the flight can't take off. He later revealed that his fellow passengers applauded when Straka was escorted off the plane. Straka live streamed. He's mad. He's having a sissy fit. From the lobby, complaining about the incident, he followed up tweeting, it's fascinating how the people saying it's dangerous for him not to wear a mask have been cheering tens of thousands of maskless BLM rioters gathering for weeks and saying, private company, don't like it, then leave, cheering on destroying cake bakers, private company policy. American Airlines said he boarded a later flight without incident wearing a mask. Then yesterday, love this, they announced that after reviewing the incident, that Stryker was permanently banned from the airline until mask restrictions are lifted. So
he's so exhausting. He's one of those, like, it's so clear, it's annoying that he's like pandering to conservatives for personal attention. Like, you can buy a walk away movement mask on his website. So like, I'll take your money for masks, but also I want to make a point of not wearing a mask. And that tweet that he put out about like, people are not worried about people going to protest. Here is the difference, and it makes me so irritated. People going out to protest in support of Black lives are knowingly risking their own health to defend the lives of other Americans. That is not the same as people who want to get their nails done or go to the beach on the weekend or, you know, go out and have a drink at the bar on the patio. And if you look at the protests, the vast majority of people in every photo or video I've seen, they're all wearing masks. But like, risking your life for other people's lives is not the same as like, I'm just tired of being at home and I just want to go out and live my life. Assholes.
Yeah, and I looked at on that website. He just looks like an entitled douchebag. So anyway, I know.
All right. Well, in our Pride and Protest series, there was an encounter at a Northern California farmers market. Livermore Pride Executive Director Amy Panu and a farmers market vendor Dan Floyd of Dan Good Cookies were handing out pride flags at the Livermore Farmers Market when Gail Hayden, the executive director of the California Farmers Market Association, objected strenuously. There's a video. She said, "You need to go read the rules, read the section about cooperating with market management, and I will suspend you right now until you read those rules. This is Disneyland, so you can't talk to us this way. The purpose of the market is not your political point of view. I don't even care what the flags are for. It has nothing to do with anything. My job is to run the market, not satisfy your political point of view. And you can do your political point of view anytime you want to. You can come stand on this corner another time." She said she'd run markets where people wanted to protest about a variety of issues, such as abortion and animal cruelty, and the markets are not the place for that. There is a free speech zone just outside the market area. Well, Floyd said, considering that she called passing out the flag a political activity, which it most definitely is not, it's tied to my identity, it definitely felt like there was some kind of issue there. He also said he understood that only petitions and flyers were forbidden under market rules. Hayden said it has nothing to do with the topic of the flag. It had to do with the flag itself and my concerns of the liability of it when they were handing them out to children and they were fencing with them. By Tuesday, her group resigned as manager of the Livermore Market, and Livermore Downtown Inc. is looking for new management. So they said, bye.
Where's Livermore?
Northern California.
So here in California, that's what I thought. Well, Lord.
But also, like, the kids are using them as for sword fighting. Ma'am. That's not even a good excuse.
Gail
you need to try harder.
Karen.
Good for Dan, and Dan's Good Cookies. So if you're ever in Livermore, check out Dan Good Cookies.
I think I'm going to go online and see if I can order some Dan Good Cookies. I love the play on words there. All right. Well, it's still Pride merchandise season, even though we have no physical Pride. And Versace has a new rainbow-colored Pride style for all. The full 14-piece range includes one-piece swimsuits, a sports bra, slides, a tank top, socks, and features a rainbow belted jockstraps, which I have a feeling that Emerson Collins has ordered. They said we will be donating a portion of sales to our new Pride 2020 capsule collection to Pride Live and Archigay, two charities working to create a more equal society. Donatella Versace is an ambassador of Pride Live's Stonewall Day this year, which will benefit those impacted by the ongoing pandemic. She said, and I will not attempt her accent. Last year, did you laugh?
I said for the best.
I could. Last year, I had.
Penelope Cruz, you are not.
No, I'm not. And I think it was a very specific accent too. It's not even like regular Italian, which I just do everything kind of Hispanic, which I grew up in.
It all ends up, yes.
So last year, here's her quote. Last year, I had the honor of becoming a Stonewall ambassador supporting LGBTQ plus people has always been a priority for me. Now more than ever, it's important we add actions to our words. And the jockstrap is available for $75.
Okay, that's the part we need to talk about.
Okay, that's a lot.
First of all, I'm not paying $75 for a jockstrap. I am poor. Which reminds me, if you are enjoying the show and you have extra money sitting around after you're donating to all the important causes this month and you want to throw a few dollars our way, you can Venmo me at Emerson Collins or PayPal us at beardcollinsshores.productions@gmail.com. It's in the banner below. But back to Donatella.
Wait, I just want, if anybody gives exactly 75, I will know that that's for Emerson, a jockstrap, and I will not take a split. So all yours, Emerson. If anybody...
No, I order all of mine for like $5 or $6 from an app. But here's, we've talked about this before, but I'll say it again. You know, visibility in Pride Month is great. Pinkwashing your brand just to look like a good ally at this point is not really enough. And when people say we're donating, that better be a significant donation. Like it better be a certain amount per item or a large amount of contribution. Because like we're gonna donate $10,000 and be like, yay, we got a bunch of your money is not enough at this point. So we all know that that jockstrap takes like what, $8 to make. So I hope it's like $25 or more.
And then you can wear it as a mask. Let's not forget, Emerson knows how to wear them as a mask. I saw one on the Andrew Christian website because I get all their about 14 emails a day. And, you know, they had a 30% off and they had a rainbow jockstrap as well. It was a lot cheaper.
But good for her for doing stuff. And those charities are good and important. And then one more final legal victory. I think we may have done this story since we've been back. A gay couple had sued the State Department after it denied their child a U.S. passport by claiming their daughter wasn't a U.S. citizen because she was born in Canada with no genetic relationship to one of her fathers. Well, a U.S. district court has just ruled in their favor. The couple's case is actually one of several similar cases being fought against the Trump administration's changed policies against same-sex couples. The Kavidis are both U.S. naturalized citizens who were born in Israel. Rose lived in the U.S. since '82 and became a citizen in 2001. Adiel moved to the U.S. in 2015 and became a citizen in 2019. But the surrogate used his sperm to make their daughter. The State Department claimed that the couple's child wasn't a U.S. citizen because he hadn't lived in the U.S. long enough to satisfy their 5-year residency requirement to be considered a citizen. The legal snag created problems for them and other couples because in 2017, the State Department changed its handling of the Immigration and Nationality Act because before 2017, a child born to a married couple living abroad had a right to American citizenship at birth if one of their parents was a citizen. But in 2017, the website declared a child born abroad must be biologically related to a U.S. citizen parent, even if a local law recognizes a surrogacy agreement and finds that U.S. parents are the legal parents of their child conceived and born abroad. So it very specifically was changed in a way that only targeted same-sex couples, because that's not an issue that a straight couple could possibly have if they're both biologically related to the child. So this is a great win for those couples and hopefully will lead as it moves up the court chain to essentially striking that down. It's like just essentially more red tape targeting same-sex couples, which is bullshit.
Yes. Do I do this last story or
no? We don't need it.
We don't need. Okay. All right. Just you're in charge.
Well, you can see the times on there. It's 4:30, and
don't bite my head off. I did not know. All right, everybody.
Well, and also our very special guest has been waiting patiently in the wings and always has delightfully insightful and hilarious things to say. But before she comes in, we don't always do this. And I want to, because with people we know, sometimes we forget to really celebrate the range of their accomplishments for people who may not be as familiar, and the breadth and depth of Calpurnia Addams' work and experience really is jaw-dropping. So I'm gonna let her sit there and share. She is an actress, musician, author, and activist. She speaks around the world on myriad issues. She was thanked by name in Jared Leto's Oscar acceptance speech. She starred in Facebook's first national TV commercial. She was the national face of OCC makeup, performed alongside Jane Fonda in the 10th anniversary production of the Vagina Monologues as a benefit for the victims of Hurricane Katrina. She starred in a TV series for Logo, Trans American Love Story, examining dating and romance for trans people. Her memoir, because, between all that, she wrote a book, Mark 947, details her Southern childhood and her service as a field medical combat specialist with the Navy and Marines during the first Gulf War. She got a GLAAD Media Award, a Peabody Award, the Service Members Legal Defense Network's Randy Schultz Visibility Award, the National Gay and Lesbian Task Force Leadership Award, and she's also just casually a decorated military veteran recognized by Congress. Ladies and gentlemen, if there's anyone to make you feel like you have not done enough in enough areas for enough people on enough things, please welcome to the show, Calpurnia Addams.
Hi.
You do that thing where it's hard to listen to people give you compliments.
Oh God. Well, how's my levels first? I don't want to be blowing your eardrums out. Can you hear me?
Perfect.
You sounded fantastic.
And I'm blasting the air conditioning because y'all know how we need our air condition. It's agony to I was listening to a podcast recently with a bunch of Canadian actors, and I think it's the same in Canada as it is in the South. It's hard to hear people sing your praises. You feel just like embarrassed about it.
Yes, and that's why it's my favorite thing to do for other people. Yeah, then you don't have to.
I took an acting class one time. I just went as a guest of my friend Karen Austin. And you have to stand up and say something that happened to you that week. And, it's like a lot of actors. And that week, I think I got distribution on a movie or something. I didn't really want to say it. She said, "Oh, Del, didn't this happen to you?" And she made me come up and everybody's applauding. And I did like this. And she said, "You're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to take away other people's pleasure of applauding you. So I applaud you.
Thank you.
Don't make me stop."
I sometimes it's just good to remember that you've done anything at all, because it can get depressing in times like we're in right now, and you're just like, what, am I doing enough? And you're never doing enough, but sometimes I'm so critical of myself. It could even be a little encouraging to be reminded of some of the good stuff.
Oh, you've been for me, Calpurnia, and I want to say that this, because, we met and we started hanging out and drinking, you, me, and Ann Walker. And I just remember that you were so generous, and it was really early, where the trans movement has come a long way since we sat there on Laurel Canyon and had those conversations. And I just remember, it makes me emotional saying this, because you were such a good friend. You said, "You can ask me anything, and I will answer anything you want and help you." Because I really needed to be there.
I have the most, I think anybody who's been through a lot of stuff, a lot of people who've been through a kind of a hard road end up developing a kind of a twisted sense of humor. And I have a real dark, twisted sense of humor, and almost an anything goes kind of at this point I've matured into, because you almost cannot hurt my feelings unless you're just trying to. And even then, you probably won't hurt them. I'll just realize what you're trying to do and go into destroy mode. But if people are just earnestly curious about something, I really am so sad to see some people in the younger generations just flip into kind of this really negative space when questions come their way that might be a little ignorant, might be not the most considered, but if I'm in the mood and I have the energy to do so. I try to be cool about it and respond, especially to friends, because trans is still kind of a very small and secretive community in a lot of ways. So of course people are going to have questions. I do what I can to spread the word.
Well, go ahead. Sorry. No, go.
But something I've been thinking about and watching a lot lately too, with all of the things happening with Black Lives Matter right now, there's a line, right? And it's different for every person, and that's okay, between it's not my job to educate you about things you don't know. Like, there are resources available. The flip side of that is, for those of us that do have the emotional capacity to educate people, when someone is earnestly asking versus invasively asking, in our work specifically, right? Like religion and sexuality, the number of times I, over the years, have had 101 conversations with people about, why love the sinner and hate the sin is a terrible thing to say. We'll see if it reconnects for her in a second. It shouldn't be on people. Her device fell out. I'm sure she'll be able to click and be right back. She knows technology well. That if you ask someone a question and they don't have the room to educate you and they snap back at you, be aware that you are asking someone to do like emotional labor for you. But on the flip side, when we can educate about our issues and have the space to, that's productive if the person is asking in a way where they really do just want to understand. I don't know if I should kick her out or see if she'll reconnect.
Is she in the waiting room?
No, it says device is not connected. So we'll see if she can reload and get back. While she's gone, we can talk about, the range of the stuff she's done, from being an actual veteran to being a showgirl, to being a writer, to being an activist, to being an actress. It's so many. Oh, look, there she. Oh, look.
Hi. Hi.
Oh, please. Like you, and I just love, because you do technology better than all of us.
Emerson said, "She'll be back on," because I mean, that's the other thing people don't know about you. You are so tech savvy. Like, you're the person, you're the go-to if you go, I need help.
I tell you, with the way all the queens are live casting from home now, I have had this entire new renaissance of setting girls up with home broadcasting. I recommend what camera to get, what mic, what vocal effects and software, blah blah blah. And of course, I'm out there recommending all this stuff, and then mine blows out. But I didn't touch anything.
Scared me.
Where are you from originally?
Nashville.
Sorry.
Yes.
Nashville.
Calpernia knows this story, but Emerson, I don't think you know how I first was aware of Calpernia Addams. There was this great article in the New York Times about Barry and the connection. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you must see Soldier's Girl, which is Lee Pace was. I mean, did he win the Emmy? I can't remember.
He was nominated, but who was it? Reese Witherspoon. No, that was Transamerica. Lee was nominated, but he didn't get it that year, and it was up for a Golden Globe as well, but it didn't get it that year either.
I'm in Calpernia, and I'd read this article. And my producing partner at the time and I flew to Nashville to track you down, and because you were still performing at the Connection, and I don't think we found out that. No, we found out right before we got, because our agent said, "Oh, the rights have been sold. Showtime has it." The writer who wrote Philadelphia wrote the screenplay, and I said,
Ron Neiswaner.
I cannot compete with that. So, but anyway, I saw you perform there that night. And
oh gosh, I probably had my boobs out. I did that a lot.
I hope so. My random Lee Pace story. He went to my rival high school in Houston when I was a sophomore. When we were in our one-act plays going to state, he was the lead in the other high school. Like, I've known who he was since I was 16. Like, before, when he was 18, before all of that. Which is why I saw the movie for the first time. It's like, oh my gosh, Lee Pace is famous now.
Wow. Yeah, that must be extra strange to see somebody you've known for that long, because he went on Soldier's Girl was his first movie out of Juilliard, but of course he went on to Lord of the Rings, Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers, blah blah blah. So
Pushing
he's
Daisies. Let's not forget Pushing Daisies.
yeah, that was a great show.
Yeah.
And he was in one of the Truman Capote films, wasn't he, as the sexy criminal that Truman fell in love with?
That sounds right.
But
Not
yeah,
remember that.
he's a fun guy.
Emerson, you had a question?
No, I was going to go on a new thing. What do you want?
I just wanted to know where you were and what your reaction was when that Supreme Court verdict came in last week. Was it shocking to you, or were you like, yes? I mean, just tell us what was going on
Well,
in your life.
It's been a bit strange. You know, I'm public about the fact that I do struggle with depression and anxiety, and I encourage people to seek out therapy and you know, talk to someone about those issues if they have them. And I want to promote and support the LA LGBT clinic here in Los Angeles, which I finally got myself together to go to the clinic, and I ended up getting amazing care from people who understand our issues and our community. And a lot of the care was free or very low cost. And I, you know, struggling with depression and anxiety, a lot of the news cycle in the last 3 months has really hammered me, as it has, you know, so many of us.
Yes.
And so after, you know, I was struggling enough because of the COVID-19, you know, having to stay home and all my work being canceled, all my income being canceled. You know, what am I going to do? And then when the protests started after the murder of George Floyd, you know, it was just like this next level, and I kind of spiraled a bit into even deeper depression. So I disconnected from the news quite a bit. I felt like, just for my own mental health and sanity, I needed to, like, I was in several group texts that were ongoing with really close friends, but it was just constant politics, politics, politics. And we were all on the same page. We all thought the same thing, but just having it hammered over and over and over. And so I disconnected from the news. And so when the Supreme Court decision came down, I actually didn't hear about it until the next day, because just for my personal mental and even physical health, I had to disconnect. Having heard about it now, you know, I'm thrilled. It's long overdue. Just knowing that still in this day and age, I could have been fired or kicked out of an apartment or whatever just because of being trans. So I'm thrilled and happy, and in this blighted landscape of news and bad information, that was a real beacon of hope.
We talked about how weird, like, it was almost like so many of us didn't even know how to react, that it was like a positive thing because everything has been so continuously awful.
Yeah.
And I do want to add to that, because Dell and I talked about it earlier about talking about this. Thank you for sharing that. I feel like mental health is really important, and with the stigma that surrounds it, that we talk about it. I've shared recently, and this week, my anxiety's been really bad. Wednesday, I had a full panic attack episode. I'm very familiar with them. I know how they work through my body. Like, it starts and I go, okay, I know what this next 6 hours looks like. And even today, it's still lingering. And with all of our desire to participate and be involved and help on myriad issues, it's important to, like, step back and take care of yourself how you need to and where you need to. I mean, this actually helps me doing this, engaging with y'all. But being able to share that and talk about it is really important.
Yeah, and I can't pretend to know what clinical depression is, because you know me, Calpernia, Emerson knows me. I'm usually my glass is more than half full most of the time. But this has really beaten me up. And I when you said everything's canceled in my life, the same with us. I mean, we theater was our life for 2000. We were like, we embraced theater again. We have all these plays opening, and everything is just gone. And, you know, the income is so much different than it was. And, you know, the things that we take for granted, and all of a sudden, you know, I mean, and I think, I mean, you know, you seem to, or at least when you perform, you're certainly extroverted, and I'm an extreme extrovert. I'm not even close to being anywhere close to introverted. So it's just me and the chihuahuas, Calpurnia. It's just me and the bitches. And so it's been a little tough for me as well. And I haven't ever had anxiety until this. And I can't relate honestly to what y'all are talking about. The panic attacks are not that full blown for me. I just get going out. It just freaks me out. You know, you're going to the dentist today, just going and seeing all these people in a waiting room, and, you know, with your mask, and that somehow makes you anxious. And, you know, going to and seeing somebody with their mask, with their nose, and you go, hey, motherfucker, put your mask on right, you know?
Right.
But, and that's important too, because, you know, for those of us that have mental health issues we've dealt with actual clinicians, for people who haven't, this can be very strange too, because you can be having regular people depression or anxiety to levels you aren't personally used to. And that's a whole different thing, you know, to deal with and how to process through as well. You know, it may not elevate to the level of needing to see a doctor or medication, but it can still be foreign to have to learn how to deal with and process with that. It's a different journey, but can be just as intense.
Yes, it's situational depression. And then I don't know about you, Calpurnia, but I just keep getting well, it's going to go longer. Well, it's going to go longer. This morning, I wake up to my friend Stuart, and I gave him a hard time about it. One of the first emails I woke up to was, he said, here's what we were talking about yesterday. Really replan 2020, because this is not going to get better until mid 2020. And I'm like, why do you send me this the first thing in the morning? And he said, well, I'm a giver. So that was his response.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I have a dark sense of humor. So I'm all for sort of an apocalyptic joke here and there, a bit of wry humor. But, you know, there are those kind of long, dark nights of the soul, those little dark personal moments that I, you know, just had to pay attention to my own health. But as you said about performing, I feel the most comfortable and alive and happy when I'm performing, which is usually on stage. But I'm learning to transition to this sort of online streaming thing too, which I am enjoying doing as well. But you know, thank God, as artists, we do have these outlets. I think a lot of people never examine their emotional output and their sort of emotional pressure valve the way that actors and performers have to do. So I can only empathize with people out there just kind of in regular professions who are dealing with this.
And was that always the dream? Was it like from a young age, I want to be an entertainer?
Well, I grew up in this fundamentalist Christian cult in which, among the many, many things, we were not allowed to watch modern movies or listen to modern music. So I never went to a movie theater until I turned 18 and moved out. I never saw like E.T. or Star Wars or Disney or any of that. So the only movies I could watch were what was on television. And the stuff that came out in the 80s was kind of trashy. So basically, I was only allowed to watch black and white movies that came on TV. And I certainly fantasized about being the women in those films. I never thought, you know, I could be an actress like that actress is being an actress. I just saw the character in the movie and wanted to be that character. And now, all these years later, I discovered that the only way to be that character is to be an actress and act like that character, you know, because I'm not going to be the femme fatale who shoots somebody in a, you know, an old black and white movie. But I came to performing just because I wanted to enter those worlds and I wanted to be those people, and that's the only way you can.
I have to say, because you know, I haven't taught that much here in LA. I've taught like 3 or 4 times, and you were in one of my acting classes at the Zephyr Theater, and I was blown away at how good you are. And I've told Emerson this for years. I said, we have to use Calpurnia. So it's on our bucket list that we have to figure out a way to some role in the future, because you're really a good actress, and you can do. What I was impressed with is the drama and the comedy that you were able to do. So,
well, I'll do anything. I'll play sexy. I'll play ugly. I'll play young. I'll play old, and I can play music as well. So
I know
always that.
We're going to get to that in a second, because I said, all that resume. There's one thing that wasn't on that list. There was one thing. That's, how on our resumes didn't we used to have special talent or special
skill
at the bottom? Yeah,
skills. So
and then, but sort of related to that, Rosemary said, I saw Calpurnia in Dell's acting class and I was blown away. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Rosemary Alexander, that's high compliment.
And as a result of like creating art and telling your story, you were sort of thrust into activism out of your own visibility.
Well, yeah, the quick version, if people don't know, I was in the military till 94. I got out in 94 and began transition and became a showgirl. And I became one of the top 4 or 5 showgirls in the South at the time, which was quite some time ago. And one night at one of my shows, an Army PFC came to see the show, and we started dating and fell in love. His name was Barry Winchell. And on the 4th of July in 1999, he was beaten to death in his sleep by homophobic fellow soldiers who considered him dating a trans woman as being gay, and considered gay as being worthy of violent death. So that was, one of the worst things to witness in my life. And from that, then separately, a movie was made called Soldier's Girl, which gave us a platform to fight against homophobia, to fight against homophobia in the military, to fight against violence. And through that platform, which has been a great blessing and gave us things like getting Bill Clinton to apologize for Don't Ask, Don't Tell. But Barry met me as a showgirl. And in my mind, my life trajectory was that I was going to be the best showgirl I could, and someday maybe be an actress and musician. But having the weight of that very difficult story, on my shoulders, I think it kind of tanked whatever acting career I could have had when I moved out here, because it was still very fresh when I moved out here over 20 years ago or so, almost. And now I'm old, so they're just kind of not casting women my age anyway, much less trans women my age. And so I'm enjoying music now more, and writing, and I've shrunk my dreams down a bit, but I will be a showgirl and a performer till the day I die, whether there's one person in the audience or a million.
Well, you're wonderful. I've seen you many times, and I have literally just gone because of you. As you know, I go.
Oh, thank you.
I love watching you perform, and so we will get back to that. We will get back to that. And I don't give that dream up. I think that there's plenty of room to still do that and claim that dream.
Yes. Well, and as an actor following behind and doing activism in our work, I cannot express enough the admiration and sort of humility that I watch what you have done with your career and your art and your life and your activism, that you've managed to do so many things, and both of those things is inspirational and aspirational for so many of us who want our work to matter and to say things. So just thank you for that.
Well, thank you. I think one of the things I'm the very most proud of is putting on the first all-trans cast of the Vagina Monologues with Jane Fonda and Eve Ensler. And we brought trans women of all races, ages, backgrounds, economic, financial, and class to do the play, which is about women learning to love their bodies. And the money from that, we went both to the LA Commission on Assaults Against Women, Violence Against Women, and also a local trans charity as well. And I think that's one of the things I'm most proud of having done. And hopefully there's going to be more like that in the future.
That is amazing. Well, would you be willing to share a special skill with us?
Yes.
Sure. Well,
I don't know why I'm fuzzy. I am plugged into my Ethernet. So everybody, I'm so sorry that I'm fuzzy, but sometimes I actually look better with a little bit of that Vaseline filter going. I hope you can hear me. But I don't know how I found out this. I think Calpernia and I were talking one night. We were probably, there might have been alcohol involved. And she told me that in this cult that she grew up in, that she actually was a fiddle player. And I think the next time I said, please bring your fiddle over. And she did. And then I remember one of my one-man shows, I got you to open with a hymn to, you know. So I'm just going to turn, if you can't see him, there's 3D Jesus behind me. So he's listening. Right behind me there. Am I fuzzy to you, Emerson?
All right, let's let her play, shall we?
Yes.
Oh,
so what are you going to play?
Well, I'm just gonna, I love songs about blood and death, so, and witchcraft. So I'm gonna play Power in the Blood.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take out my earbud here. Let's see. Let me tune a little. Yay.
All right.
Yay. Oh.
That was all.
Let me get my earplug back in here.
Well,
Could you hear that?
Delightful. Took us all back to our church roots.
Thank you so much, Calpernia. You have been an amazing guest. I miss you, and we will get back in the same room together, hopefully before 2021, maybe just a social distance thing or something. I'd love to see you.
Me too. Thank you, fellas, so much for having me. And I love you all. And anybody find me at CALPERNIA on any platform. I love you.
It's right there on the screen. Y'all, thank you so much. We love you. What a goddamn delight.
Wow,
like,
what a great.
Of course she plays the fiddle because, you know, she needs another thing to be able to do.
I just love her so much. I hate so many people, including yourself, are having issues. You know, it's a tough time, and we have to be there for each other. So anyway,
and talk about it. You know, reach out. You know, connect with people. Be willing to share with people how you're doing. It is okay when people ask for you to really tell them when you know they're really asking. And if you're enjoying the show, we do it to entertain you, to have fun. It is a bit of work. So if you have dollars you want to share with us, you can Venmo me at Emerson Collins or PayPal us at beardcollinsshortsproductions@gmail.com. Thank you to David, Tina, and Allison who already did during the show.
You guys.
It does matter, and we do appreciate it. Real quick, the Voices of Hope concert that Scott Nevins did streams tonight. Go to desertaidsproject.org/hope if you want to tune in. Blake's doing his Blake Sings Barbara concert tomorrow. You can see that on his page. And we'll see you on Tuesday.
Bye, y'all.
Enjoy your weekend, however you spend it.